Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Nitro Racing League here on the channel. Today we have race number 2 of the first round of the playoffs at Las Vegas Motor Speedway coming to you guys, and this was hands down, just like what the title says, one of the worst Nitro races potentially of all time, especially out of the ones that I've been a part of. So we came through into the race. I qualified P14. It was not a good qualifying effort, and there was a lot of things that just kind of went wrong, and it started off right off the bat. So for some reason, I'm not sure why, but we were running absolutely no draft turned on whatsoever. We did this earlier this season at Michigan, I think it was, and the race was terrible. And for some reason, we did it again here today in the playoffs. I'm not sure why it was turned off in this race, but it was very baffling, and we knew immediately that it was going to be a disaster. If I knew the draft was going to be turned off before the race, I probably wouldn't have even shown up, but we just kind of had to deal with it and get going here in Las Vegas. So you see up in your top left, stage 1, 39 laps now as we are underway going down towards turns 1, and it was very, very tough to pass without the draft here in Las Vegas now, as currently up front it was a 41 of Christian, as you see me up the inside of RJ in that number 38 car going down the back straightaway, but he would stay clear for the time being, but we'd get to the outside of him as we came through at a turn 2 on lap 3, so make a move up into P13, then we go down into turn 3 now on lap 6, trying to make a move around the outside of the 14. As you guys remember, if you keep up with the series, the last episode we actually won the first race of the playoffs, so we are locked into the next round, and in the next race it's the eliminator race at Talladega Super Speedway, so going to be very interesting to say the least. Now as we go down into turn 1, you already have a bit of a crash here as we go into the corner, into the front end of the 95. We get collected for the first caution of the day here in Las Vegas, and that was, I thought, going to set the tone for the race, but I was actually surprisingly proven wrong. But we were involved in the first accident of the day, multiple cars there involved, so of course we had to start at the back of the field. We would get back underway with 30 laps to go now in stage 1. So not the ideal start, to say the least, here in Las Vegas right now, as the 4 car of Durham found himself out front. He is currently one of the drivers in the playoffs trying to make it into the next round, same as the 9 in front of us of Andrew Wisdom, as well as Jay in the 95 on my right hand side. But Andrew, of course, easily should make it into the next round on points, just based off of the playoff points that he picked up throughout the regular season. But we come through now on to lap 11 of the stage, and you can just see how tough it was to pass without any draft at all. It was just making the racing so just not good now as we came through out of turn 4. Now as it would go down this front straightaway, a little bit of contact there as we go down, crossing the line and hitting lap 12 as we were 3 wide with the 9 and the 14 going down into the corner, but the 14 actually backed out of it. Now as myself and Andrew, we continued side by side, but on the exit of turn 4 now on lap 13, he actually let me go, as I think both of us got very tired of just battling side by side, but no one really being able to go anywhere. So we came through at a turn 4 now, a little bit of a moment there in front of us between the 88 as well as the 8, then myself and the 42 of Cameron decide, you know what, we're going to go between both of them and move our way into the top 10. So now the 42 moves into 7th, and I move up now into the 8th position here, just behind that 42 of Cameron, as the 4 of Durham continued to lead at this point as we came through down this back straightaway, already closing in towards the halfway point of this first and opening stage. But then I would fight up the inside of the 42 of Cameron here as we went down into turns 1 with 24 laps to go. This battle would continue for a whole lap or so as we went down into turns 1 and 2 now on lap 17, out of the corner, trying to clear him as we came through out of turn 2, but couldn't quite pull it off as we were side by side down the back straightaway as the 4 car continues to lead as we go down into turns 3, nearly making contact with the 42, and we do clear him out of turn 4. Then I run down Tyler in the 48, who was way off the pace for some reason, so I blow right on by him as well as we went down into turn 1. So we now move up into P6, as you guys know. Top 5 get stage points in Nitro, and we had now run down the top 5 drivers of Matt O'Brien, as well as the one of Eddie, who has now moved yet to another team because he's actually kind of retired for the season, or I guess opted out of the rest of the season, but he decided to come back for this race here. So he's in the 1 car. He has given up his playoff position, as I think I mentioned in the last episode or something like that. I might be wrong. Either way, there was some contact though with the 20. We both keep it going in the right direction now with 17 laps to go in stage 1, and we were starting to look at green flag pit stops as a potential thing that was coming in our direction. As I passed the 20, then I would get up the inside of the 1 car and make a pass on Eddie as well as we came through at a turn 4. So now up into P4, a solid first stage for us so far, as Andrew was also moving his way forward, but unfortunately I would actually have the car to get starting to get a little bit too loose, so I kind of fell off, and that allowed Eddie and Andrew to get right back to me here as I completed that pass originally on Eddie. So I decided, you know what, on lap 28 going into turns 3 and 4, I'm going to pit this very lap here. I'm going to try and short pit, and we came through out of turns for the 4 cars, still leading the way and whatnot as Andrew goes by, Eddie pitting with me, but I actually speed into the pit lane, so we get a penalty forcing me into a 2-tire pit stop. So I had to put 2 tires on, serve the penalty. We come out of the pit lane a lap down, and what got really interesting was with that original caution coming out earlier that we were a part of, it made the fuel situation very close, that a few drivers decided they were going to try and stretch it on fuel to get to the end of the stage without a pit stop. And one of those drivers was the 4 of Durham, as well as the 8 car driven by Venom. Now Durham, unfortunately for him, he was not able to pull it off. He actually ran out of fuel, I believe, as he went into turn 3 on this very lap, with now just a few laps to go, and I was trapped a lap down. So was Cameron, who actually spun out by himself. No caution came out because it was a single car incident, so he was trapped a lap down as well. And then there was one other driver a lap down. I think it might have been MJ or something like that. But we come through now on the final lap of the stage, and now realizing myself and Cameron are in big trouble because we are both going to end this first stage 1 lap down, as the 8 car of Venom actually wins stage 1 after saving enough fuel to make it to the end. So there you see, it's actually MJ, Cameron, and myself all a lap down at the end of stage 1, but MJ will be getting the lucky dog, which means going into stage 2, it is going to be a race between myself and Cameron for that lucky dog position. Now, as you saw, the top 5 that got stage points there, a bunch of playoff drivers like Matt as well as Jay, really in need of some stage points, but unfortunately for them, none of them were able to pick up stage points, and we're the only ones safe right now. As you guys know, like I said, we are locked in to the next round of the playoffs with that win in the last episode. Now, as we would come into the pit lane, I could have taken a wave round, but that would have been a terrible idea. So we come in for 2 cans of fuel as well as 4 tires and get back going here for the start now of stage 2 from the very back of the pack. And hopefully the hope was that I would get into the lucky dog position and get a caution right away. Now, as you see, the 8 of Venom, he actually pulls off, lets everybody go as we go down into turn 1. Now, as he wanted no part of what was about to happen, I guess, now as we go through the center of 1 and now to turn 2, immediately I put the attack to the 42 side by side with him, 3 wide down the back straight away now, as the 38 of RJ backed out. Now, as this is the battle for the lucky dog position as we go down into turns 3, the 48 of Tyler currently leading the way as I clip the apron there, but we keep the car going in the right direction as we exit turn 4, now holding on to that lucky dog position here going down this front stretch. As you can just see, a whole pack of cars here as we go down into turn 1 now, though a few laps later on lap 4, we were just kind of making some moves on the inside, passing the 24 of Connor as well as getting up the inside of the 95 of Jay. But you look at drivers like Connor, who was running second before the pit cycle in stage 1, it's so hard to pass that he's running back here in like P10 and he can't do anything right now. So definitely it was frustrating seeing this now as we are continuing to make moves through the field. Of course, none of these count for position. So we're just kind of trying to unlap myself the hard way is what I was trying to do as we came through to turn 2, now battling side by side with the 20 of Matt now as we came through into turn 3 on lap 8. I actually got really tight here and actually pushed up into Matt, and unfortunately on his screen I hit him and moved him nearly into the outside. While there was some contact up in front of us, the 19 goes spinning through the infield, no caution because that is a single car incident. We would then run down though the top 5 cars here, the 48, the 9, the 1, the 41, as well as the 4. But I really couldn't kind of do anything with these guys once I had gotten to them, so we were just kind of chilling here. But I did try to make a move up the inside now of the 4 of Durham on lap 17, and I push up a bunch there. As you see, the 9 car of Andrew actually started having some lag issues here in this second stage now as we came through the center of 3 and 4. The 41 actually got messed over by Andrew's leg, I should mention, now as there was just a few moments and it actually unfortunately hurt Christian. But we came through now to lap 20. You can see this battle that was going on in front of us now as I get very sideways, go into the infield grass as we go down the front straightaway with now just 17 laps to go in the stage. So a bit of a mistake from myself. The car was getting really loose, so I realized I really need to tighten this thing up here on the pit stop. So I decided at the end of lap 21 I could not really deal with the looseness of the car anymore. I decided we're going to come into the pit lane, and once again, just like stage 1, I end up speeding into the pit lane, completely handing away my lucky dog position because I once again was forced into a 2-tire pit stop and had to serve a penalty for the second time in this race. I think I haven't had a speeding penalty all season long, and then we come into tonight's race and I get 2 speeding penalties. So it was all, of course, on my end. Now just trying to be too aggressive into the pit lane. Andrew as well got a speeding penalty, so he was still on the lead lap though as we came through at a turn 4. Fortunately, nobody was able to make it to the end of the stage on fuel, so I was only going to stay 1 lap down, but the only problem was I was no longer going to be the lucky dog. So now the hope was shifted to the final stage, where we're going to have to hope that we get a caution very early in that third and final stage. With it being so hard to pass, we have to have a caution as soon as possible if we're going to be able to make anything happen. So we were just hanging on now to the end of stage 2. This was now on the final lap, as the 38 of RJ actually would go spinning out. He said he was on his phone or something, if I remember correctly, but it was P15 for us in stage 2. So far, a terrible race in terms of just a straight up racing among everybody, and then we have some awful speeding penalties on my end, just being stupid going into the pit lane. So this race was definitely not going the way we were hoping, but we came into the pit lane again. Cameron with the lucky dog. I put 2 cans of fuel in and 4 fresh tires on the car, and we will get ready to go back green here for the third and final stage, which is now underway. Right in front of us, we got the 19 of our teammate, a rookie of Jonathan, as well as the number 9 there of Andrew Wisdom, with 53 laps to go here in Las Vegas. Now the 24 of Connor finds himself leading the way into turns 1. So like I said, just hoping a caution comes out immediately here. I was really hoping it was just going to be calamity on this restart. Now as we go down this back straight away, as you see the 88 of MJ in front of, but I'll get to the outside of the 9 of Andrews. We went down into turn 1 now on lap 83. They're going 3 wide in front of us now as we come through out of turn 2. I was not going to hold back at all here. I was not wasting any time. I get to that right hand side here of the 8 of Venom as we go down into turn 3, trying to make this outside work. Now as the outside in turns 1 and 2 is very important to have, and then it really felt like the bottom at times works better in turns 3 and 4, but you could really make the outside work in each corner of the track. Now as we came through a few laps later on lap 84 up the inside of the 88, but I backed out of there to make sure there was no contact. He gets into the outside wall anyways. Now as I look to the inside of Jay, who had no idea I was below him, and that's why we had that contact right there. So we come through to 50 laps to go, and we're now on P8, I should say, on track, but unfortunately, as you guys can see, we are P15 due to being a lap down. So we come through out of turn 2, trying to close in on the back of that 95. Now there's some problems behind us, and that actually turned in to the crash that we were looking for. As we went down into turn 3, we slow up big time now, as we had actually no idea at first that that was a 2-car incident, but we found out down the front straightaway it was a 2-car incident. The caution came out, and we get the lucky dog. I was not wasting any time. I was just like, Matt, get out of my way. I drove into the back of him, and then I go by and take my lucky dog. So we came through now into the pit lane, put 2 cans of fuel in, 4 fresh tires. I made some adjustments to try and tighten up the car for the long run, and we'll get back underway with 45 laps to go. But now, finally, for the first time since, halfway through stage 1 or so, we are on the lead lap here in Las Vegas. So very excited to try and work our way through the field. Again, we were past the 88. We got to the outside of the 38, and now we were trying to make a pass on him as well as we came through out of turn 4. So we will pass RJ going down this front straightaway here. And now we would also look to the outside of the 42 of Cameron and try to make the pass on him, as I was making a bunch of time here on this outside line. So we move now up into P11, which is the best we've run in quite a while now, as I would also get to the outside of the 95 of Jay going down the back straightaway, pass him as well. So we now enter the top 10 with a little bit over 30 laps to go in this race, as the 24 of Connor found himself leading the way now as we came through out of turn 4 behind the 8 of Venom now, as we just try to close in. But once again, with it being so hard to pass, we end up kind of getting stuck right about here. But finally, he would actually make a move to the inside of Matt, and that opened the door for me to get to his outside on lap 102. So he went down into turns 3 and 4 on his outside and try to move into that 9th position. And sure enough, we would do just that. We would take P9 away from the 8. Then we had to deal with Matt here, who was not going to give up without a fight, to say the least here. As we came through into turn 1, I tried to make a move up his inside, even though I knew the inside in turns 1 and 2 was a huge disadvantage. Now as we come through out of the corner, trying to make sure I don't run into him now as we go down this back straight away. But it was such a tough fight with Matt to try and get past him as we came through a few laps later on lap 107. Still stuck right behind him, unfortunately, as we went down into turn 1. And then as we come through the center of the corner, you see me using that outside line to try and close up, but we come through to lap 109. Still stuck behind Matt in the 20 car, and I just can't do anything with him here as we go down the back straightaway. So my thought now was to short pit a little bit to try and get in front of him, as well as potentially get in front of a few other drivers. So you see on lap 111, Jonathan comes into the pit lane now, so that was kind of my cue right here. So we came through to the end of lap 112. I decided now to come in to the pit lane. I didn't want to be the first one in, but I went very careful into the pit lane this time to make sure we did not get a third speeding penalty. Unfortunately, I ended up getting beat off of the pit lane by the 42 of Cameron. So that was another car that we would have to try and get back past, and sure enough, I would work to the outside of him and get now past him down the front straightaway. So we continued to try and move our way back forwards now, as there you saw everybody else coming into the pit lane now. Andrew, Eddie, as well as the 24 of Connor, all coming off of the pit lane this lap now, as they are going to have quite a bit fresher tires than us, so they very well are going to have the advantage. And I didn't think that the tires were going to be such an advantage at this point in the race, the way these things have gone so far with how hard it was to pass with the no draft. But I was proven wrong very quickly, because the 24 of Connor, he got to my inside, drove right on by, and then Andrew, Eddie, they were closing in very quickly from behind us. As I would get to the back though of Christian, go to the inside, actually cut through the grass to get to the inside of him, because I just didn't feel like waiting around and battling him. So we go down into turn 1. Andrew now looks to my outside as well as we go into the corner, so 3 wide between myself, Andrew, as well as Christian as we exit turn 2, and he's going to blow right on by us. He's closing in on the back of his teammate of Connor, and right now the race for the win was really between Connor in the 24 and Andrew in the 9. Connor needs this win a lot more than Andrew does, but Andrew is closing that gap to him as we came through out of turn 4 with about 15 laps to go. Then we come through to 11 laps to go. Now Eddie had gotten to my inside as well as we went down into turn 1. As you can see just how far behind I had fallen now, as the 48 of Tyler was hanging on for dear life now as Eddie gets past as we came through out of turn 2. So we settle in now to P6. Then the 4 car of Durham, he had pitted the latest of anybody. He was closing in quickly as well on myself now, but the 24 of Connor eventually went through to the lead, but Andrew was all over the back of him trying to make a move for the lead now with 5 laps to go here in Las Vegas, as the 4 of Durham had now run me down. So it was looking like we were about to drop down to P7 and potentially finish in that 7th position as we came through out of turn 2. Sure enough, he has run us down all over our back bumper as we go down this back straightaway now. As it is sure enough out of turn 4 though, he would be able to get side by side coming through to 4 laps to go, as the 24 and the 9 still going at it for the race victory now. As like I mentioned, Connor in the 24 needs to win a lot more than Andrew does, so I was curious to see if he was going to race Andrew just to the limit now as we came through out of turn 2, dropping now to P7. But unfortunately for Connor, the 9 of Andrew Wisdom would take the lead now in the final few laps, and he was already pulling away, so we came through to 2 laps to go now, running in that 7th position here in Las Vegas. After everything that's happened, this is quite the comeback, I felt like, for us. Now as the 4 car gets sideways out of turn 2, I pounce on the opportunity, get side by side as we go down into turn 3 on his outside, and we try to clear him through the center of the corner as we approach the final lap here in Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And fortunately, we somehow managed to clear the 4 of Durham, so now we take P6 going down the front stretch, also closing in on the back of the 19 of Jonathan as we go down into turn 1 on this final lap in Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Now as I defend here on the top to make sure I get the momentum off the corner now, as we know the 4 car has the freshest tires in the field, so I was expecting him to probably pass me into turn 3, but I get clear, so I decide we're going to go defensive and run the bottom here on this final corner on this final lap in turn 3 and out of turns 4. But it's Andrew Wisdom who exits turns 4 in front of the 24 of Connor, and he will win in Las Vegas, punching his ticket into the next round of the playoffs as we come through to cross the line with a 6th place finish here in Las Vegas. So can't complain about P6 whatsoever, considering just how things went for us throughout this race, as you see the rest of the finishing order. And now I'm going to show you guys the playoff grid after the race now. As you guys know, myself and Andrew now both locked into the next round. So now we are going to check out that playoff grid here, as you see on the screen. The ones to look at, really: Karma, aka Matt, 1 point below the cut line, and then Venom, the 8 car, 6 points below. Christian in the 41, 1 point above. Jay, 2. Durham in the 4, 3 above, and then everyone else is pretty much safe, from Tyler, myself, of course, Jonathan, Connor, and then, of course, as well, Andrew. So it's going to be interesting between basically 6th to 10th is all up for grabs. It's going to be interesting to see what happens there. So just before we end the episode, though, I want to say thank you to the Goin Racing members of MJ, Aiden, Tony, Dylan, Joseph, RJ, Timothy, Bubba Jr., Mr. Johnson, aka Illinois Diecast now, NASCAR on Dogs, Devin Roth, Eric Chouette, as well as Matthias Hansen. As I always say, I really do appreciate you guys helping out on the channel. It does go a long way, and I just want to thank everybody for taking the time out of the day to watch this episode, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day, everybody.